Have you ever just wondered what really makes you tick in your relationships? Well, today, we're going to unpack the hidden instructions, the blueprint that guides how you connect with other people, all through the lens of something called attachment theory. You know that feeling, right? Maybe you get a little clingy, or maybe you're the one who pushes people away the second things start to get real. It's this incredibly common push and pull. But what if I told you the reason for it is all part of a pattern that was set a long, long time ago, before you could even remember it?
Because here's the thing. Your adult love life is, right now, being guided by a subconscious blueprint. Think of it like a script that was written before you could even talk. And that is the heart of attachment theory. It's the science of how our very first bonds literally define our future connections.
So, that leads to the big question. Where does this incredibly powerful subconscious blueprint actually come from? To figure that out, we've got to go back to the very beginning, to the pioneering research that uncovered this fundamental part of who we all are. So our story kicks off in the 1950s at Cambridge University. A psychologist, John Bowlby, and his amazing colleague Mary Ainsworth, they came up with this really radical idea. They said our need for close bonds isn't just a nice feeling, it's a deep-seated biological drive. And they were absolutely determined to prove it.
So how'd they do it? Well, their method was this brilliantly simple but profound experiment they called the strange situation. Researchers will just watch how a little kid reacted when their parent or caregiver left them alone in a room for a few minutes. And then, and this is the most important part, how they reacted when that caregiver came back.
And what they saw was just fascinating. Based on how these kids reacted when their caregiver returned, Ainsworth spotted 4 totally distinct patterns. Secure kids, they were easily comforted and went right back to playing. Anxious kids were really distressed and clingy. Avoidant kids, they would actually look away, almost ignore them. And then you had disorganized kids who seemed confused. They'd move toward their parent and then away. These were not just random reactions, no way. They were the very first signs of a lifelong relationship blueprint being drawn.
Okay, but why? Why do we even have these patterns in the first place? Well, it turns out it's not a bug, it's a feature. And it goes all the way back to our most basic survival instincts.
So here's the absolute key takeaway. From an evolutionary point of view, attachment is all about survival. Think about it. A helpless little baby has to stay close to a big, protected person to avoid danger. It's that simple. So your attachment style, it's not some kind of flaw. It was an adaptive response your brain came up with to keep you safe in whatever early environment you found yourself in.
All of these early experiences and responses create what psychologists call an internal working model. The easiest way to think of it is like a mental filing cabinet. It's where you store all these subconscious rules and scripts about relationships, rules about whether you're worthy of love and whether other people can actually be counted on when you need them.
And just how powerful is this subconscious script? Get this. Research suggests that it governs up to 95% of our beliefs, our thoughts, and our actions in our adult romantic relationships. I mean, just let that sink in for a second. The vast majority of how we do love and connection is basically running on autopilot, guided by that early blueprint.
Okay, so now that we know how the blueprint is made and why it even exists, let's break down the 4 main patterns that came out of all this research.
Now, to really get the styles, you have to know that we measure them along 2 key dimensions. First is anxiety, and that's all about the fear of being abandoned. And second is avoidance, which is about how comfortable you are with intimacy and getting close to someone. Where you land on these 2 scales pretty much determines your style.
So first up is secure attachment. This is kind of the sweet spot, low anxiety and low avoidance. People with this style have a really healthy balance. They're comfortable with closeness, but they're also comfortable with their independence. This makes it way easier for them to trust, communicate openly, and build really stable, happy relationships. Next up, we have the anxious style. This is high on the anxiety scale, but low on avoidance. The core fear here is abandonment. These folks crave closeness and intimacy, but they often have this nagging worry that their partner doesn't really love them, and that pushes them to seek constant reassurance.
Then there's the avoidance style. This is low anxiety, but high avoidance. For these individuals, their independence and self-sufficiency are everything. They often see deep intimacy not as a comfort, but more like a threat to their freedom, so they tend to keep people at arm's length.
And finally, we have the disorganized style. This one is high in both anxiety and avoidance. It's this really chaotic internal push-pull. On one hand, they deeply want connection, but on the other, they're absolutely terrified of it. This often comes from early experiences where the person who is supposed to be their source of safety was also, unfortunately, a source of fear.
So this blueprint, formed in your earliest years, it doesn't just go away. It is the invisible force that's shaping every single relationship you have today. The real question isn't if your past is affecting your present, but how. And understanding that how is the very first step to consciously choosing the relationships you want, instead of just letting your subconscious blueprint choose them for you.